All right. There was something else on YouTube while I was looking for Hocus Pocus. Ernie Ladd, I would like to say again, it was the most physically intimidating presence in wrestling history. It popped up. I think this was on Twitter. And I clicked, I did retweet it. And God dang it, who sent it out now? But it was on YouTube. Then they had tweeted it. An hour of Ernie Ladd interviews. And unfortunately, most of it was from the video age, I think there was some stuff off the WWF or WWE network from 77, 78, but most of it was 80 to 84. And there's some great, I saw him in the early 70s when he was working for Bruiser and doing the interviews with Sam Minick, Mr. TV announcer, every week, but an hour straight of Ernie Ladd interviews. And not only is there nobody that projects that aura in wrestling today, but actually if Ernie Ladd was here today, he wouldn't be able to get away with it. Because the shit he said was so profound and or heat-getting on so many levels. But nobody projects that kind of, especially as a heel. He was a great babyface because he was a master of psychology. Ernie Ladd understood the way to think about the wrestling business almost better than anybody else. And I've got a chance to talk to him in Mid-South, and I wish I now had been older or more experienced then to ask him deeper questions. But he could be a baby face that the people would love, as evidenced by the Cleveland riot when they tried to kill Ox Baker and Johnny Powers on Ernie's behalf. Or if he was going to be a heel, he could be the most despicable, surly, insulting, evil-minded, greedy, avaricious, filthy, nasty, dirty heel that anybody had ever seen. And he was so intelligent, and not only to the business, but just he was an intelligent guy. So, and I hit you with one of them before we went on the air, but one of his lines was, "I'd rather go to my mama's funeral than go to my own." Well, you cold-hearted, fucking callous son of a bitch, right? And the tone that he had and the way that he delivered things and the way that he verbally would wipe his feet on some unsuspecting son of a bitch, like junkyard dog, you fat, dirty, greasy, slimy son of a... And this was one, he said, "Gordon Soley, nothing ever comes to a sleeper but a dream, and it's gone when he awakens." And you're just, what the fuck? And depending on the era, especially in the 70s in the AWA and for Bruiser, he's wearing the fucking purple three-piece suit and the hat with the feather in it. He looks like Superfly, right? Or then later on, when styles changed, he comes out there and he's in that goddamn giant tracksuit, and he's 6'9". He weighs 325 pounds. His feet are size 18 triple E, and they cover the ground he walks on. And just the conviction that he spoke with, it was and I wish everybody, again, especially if you're in the wrestling business, go look at Ernie Ladd interviews but now here's the thing. I said he probably wouldn't even get on TV today because he knew he full-fledged committed to any job he had in the wrestling business. If he was going to be a babyface, they were going to have a riot for beating him up. If he was going to be a heel, in those days, the 70s especially, of the blaxploitation movies, Shaft and Superfly and all those guys are fucking babyfaces, especially to the young black kids. So he's going to be a heel to everybody. Ernie, he would call all the black baby faces Uncle Toms. And he'd say he was going to send Tony Atlas back to Africa on Atlanta television. Or in North Carolina, I'm going to beat the black off Rufus R. Jones. And that way, even the people who might think that he was cool because he was like a real-life Shaft, they knew he hated them too. He wasn't pulling for them. He was just a a selfish son of a bitch that was only out for himself. But just again, especially by the time the video era came in, 1980 and on, Ernie was about to retire. He was in his 40s. And his knees had been so bad from football. And I've said by the time I got to Mid-South in 84, he would sit in the locker room with shorts on, and his knees would look like grapes on a toothpick. So many surgeries. So he was not at his athletic prime, but, for a guy that played to that extent, to that level in the NFL, and as he would tell you, he was the most publicized black athlete in the United States the year before Muhammad Ali won the gold medal. And all that other stuff. He was a badass when he was younger. And he learned how to work with guys of different sizes and make it plausible because he was so much bigger than most people. But you can't go by most of the video of his work that's out there, even though he could pull out a good one occasionally in, the early 80s. But it was primarily at that point, his presence and his promo and just the look and the intimidating facials. If you stood Ernie Ladd next to anybody today, and even Brock Lesnar, the Ernie Ladd in his prime, not the grandfatherly, retired Ernie Ladd, they'd be comparable. I don't think there's a scarier son of a bitch out there. If you stood in front of him and anybody else, he stands out. What do you think, Brian?
I think the biggest regret I have is that King Kong Bundy didn't live a few more years. Because with the popularity of this show, at every autograph signing, he would hear, "Bundy, you fat piece of shit!"
Yeah.
He would hear it
Bundy,
nonstop.
you big fat piece of shit.
Big fat piece of shit, excuse me.
We bring you in here. We bring guys in to get you over, and what do? You dumb yourself right out of position. Or Hacksaw Butch Reed. Butch would have a bad match. Ernie'd be riding him. Butch Reed, you're stealing from Mid-South. Every time you cash your paycheck, you're stealing from Mid-South having matches like that.